Commander Jack Wilson stood at the far end of the Galactic Council chamber, his back straight despite the weight of Earth's expectations on his shoulders. The massive circular room sparkled with the holographic displays of over 30 alien civilizations. Some representatives appeared in person, while others projected their images across countless light years. Jack had served as Earth's representative for 5 years now, but the feeling of awe never quite faded, nor did the sting of mockery. "The human wishes to speak," announced Lord Krell, the Vril ambassador. His tall, thin frame towered nearly 8 feet high, skin the color of polished silver. "Let us all prepare for an emotional outburst, as is their way." Soft laughter rippled through the chamber. Jack kept his face neutral, though his knuckles whitened as he gripped the edge of his podium. "Earth has completed the mining operation." "On Titan," Jack said, his voice steady. "We delivered the rare minerals as requested 3 weeks ahead of schedule, and lost how many of your kind in the process?" asked a round, tentacled creature to his right. 4, Jack answered. "Always rushing in without proper planning," Lord Krell said with a dismissive wave of his long 6-fingered hand. "It is the way of young species." Jack swallowed his anger. The humans hadn't been given proper information about the unstable ice sheets. It seemed to happen every time. Critical details conveniently forgotten when briefing the humans. The Council had admitted Earth to their ranks 200 years ago, after humans developed faster-than-light travel. What had seemed like a great honor quickly revealed itself as something else. Humans were the newcomers, the youngsters, the emotional creatures who hadn't spent thousands of years mastering their baser instincts. But they were useful. The mining team succeeded despite the incomplete information provided, Jack said. "Which brings me to my next point. Earth requests a seat on the Resource Distribution Committee." This time the laughter was louder. A blue-skinned representative leaned forward. "Commander Wilson, your people have barely mastered space travel. The committee requires a deeper understanding of galactic economics." "We've been trading with the Council for 2 centuries, Jack replied, "and Earth handles the most dangerous resource collection missions." "Because you are willing to risk your lives foolishly," Lord Krell said. "We simply make use of your natural tendencies." The truth hung in the air, unspoken but understood by all. Humans were the daredevils of the galaxy, while ancient species like the Vril had evolved to value caution and careful planning over thousands of years. Humans still possessed the recklessness of youth. They would dive into radioactive moons, explore unstable wormholes, and venture into hostile territories where other species feared to tread, and the Council used this to their advantage. "The request is denied," Lord Krell announced. "But we do have another mission that seems suited to human talents." "Of course they did." Jack nodded, knowing what would come next. 3 hours later, Jack left the Council chambers with orders to investigate a strange anomaly that had appeared at the edge of known space. Reports showed unusual energy readings that defied explanation. Several probes had been sent, but none returned. Perfect work for expendable humans. Back on his ship, Jack slumped into his captain's chair and rubbed his temples. "That bad, huh?" asked Lisa, his communications officer. Her dark eyes studied his face with concern. "The usual," Jack replied. "They need brave humans to do what they're too smart to try themselves." Lisa snorted. "You'd think after 2 centuries they'd show a little respect." "Why would they?" said Mark, the ship's engineer, without looking up from his console. "We keep doing their dirty work. They have no reason to change." Jack gazed out at the stars through the view screen. Earth had been so excited to join the galactic community. Humans had dreamed of alien friends for generations, imagining advanced beings who would help them solve the problems of disease, hunger, and war. Instead, they found themselves at the bottom of a very tall pecking order, useful only for their willingness to take risks. "We have our orders," Jack said finally. "Set course for the outer rim. There's an anomaly to investigate." "What kind of anomaly?" Lisa asked. "The kind that eats probes, apparently." Jack replied with a grim smile. The journey took 3 weeks. Jack assembled a team of specialists from Earth's finest: Dr. Anna Reed, a brilliant physicist; Tom Martinez, a former soldier with extensive combat experience, and Ben Miller, an expert in alien technologies. Together with Jack's crew, they prepared as best they could for the unknown. The anomaly came into view on the 23rd day. It hung in space like a tear in reality, a shifting, shimmering rift that seemed to both absorb and emit light. "I've never seen readings like these," Anna said, her eyes wide as she studied her instruments. "It's as if space itself is folding." The Council has sent 3 unmanned probes," Jack told the team during their final briefing. "None returned data. We're the first manned mission." "Because we're human and therefore disposable," Tom said bitterly. The former soldier had a deep scar running down his left cheek, a souvenir from a previous simple mission for the Council. Jack couldn't argue with that assessment. "We'll take all possible precautions. The small research vessel will approach while the main ship maintains a safe distance." "Define safe," Ben muttered. Despite their jokes, Jack could see the familiar look in his team's eyes. It wasn't just fear. It was determination. Humans had always pushed boundaries. Long before the stars were within reach, they had climbed the highest mountains, dived to the deepest ocean trenches, and ventured into the harshest deserts. It was both their greatest strength and their greatest weakness. The research vessel launched the next morning. Jack, Anna, Tom, and Ben crowded into the small craft as it approached the anomaly. The closer they got, the more instruments failed. First communications, then long-range scanners. "We should turn back," Ben suggested as the ship's systems flickered. "Not yet," Anna said, her eyes fixed on the readings. "There's something familiar about the energy pattern." The anomaly pulsed, expanding slightly. A wave of energy washed over their ship, shutting down all systems momentarily before they hummed back to life. "What was that?" Jack demanded. Anna's face had gone pale. "It scanned us. It's intelligent." Before anyone could respond, a beam of light shot from the anomaly, enveloping their small vessel. Jack felt a strange sensation, as if his mind was being gently examined. Then a voice spoke, not aloud, but directly into their thoughts. "Humans." At last. The team exchanged shocked glances. Jack cleared his throat. "We are representatives of Earth and the Galactic Council. The Council sends humans to do their dangerous work," the voice responded, somehow conveying amusement. "Some things never change." "You know the Council?" Anna asked. "I knew them when your kind still huddled in caves," the voice said. "I have waited, watching, testing." The anomaly pulsed again, and suddenly a pathway seemed to open within it. A tunnel of light leading somewhere beyond. "Enter if you dare," the voice challenged. "Or return to your masters with nothing as they expect." Jack looked at his team. This was exactly the kind of reckless action the Council expected of humans. The smart choice would be to retreat and report. "What do you think?" he asked Anna. She hesitated, then smiled. "When have humans ever backed down from a mystery?" Tom checked his weapon. "I didn't come all this way to turn around." Ben nodded in agreement. Jack took a deep breath and guided their vessel toward the glowing pathway. As they crossed the threshold, he couldn't help but wonder if they were proving the Council right about human recklessness, or if perhaps, for once, that very quality might lead to something the ancient cautious species had missed in their millennia of careful existence. Either way, they were about to find out. Brightness surrounded them as their small vessel entered the anomaly. Jack gripped the controls, though they responded sluggishly at best. The ship shuddered and groaned around them. "Systems failing," Ben called out, his fingers dancing across the flickering control panel. "Power dropping to critical levels." Anna's eyes never left her readings. "This isn't just a spatial anomaly, it's some kind of gateway." A final flash of light blinded them momentarily. When their vision cleared, the team found themselves in what appeared to be normal space again, except nothing was normal about it. Instead of the empty void they had left behind, they now floated in orbit around a massive structure. It resembled a sphere made of interconnected rings, each spinning slowly in different directions. The entire construction must have been at least 10 miles across, gleaming with a dull bronze color that somehow looked both ancient and timeless. "Is that," Tom whispered, pressing his face to the viewport, "artificial?" "Definitely," Anna replied, her voice filled with wonder. "And incredibly old based on the radiation patterns, possibly millions of years." Jack checked their systems. "Communications are back online, but there's no sign of the anomaly we came through. We're trapped here wherever here is." The mysterious voice returned to their minds. "Your vessel requires repair. Approach Dock 7. As if responding to the command, one section of the massive sphere opened, revealing a hangar large enough to accommodate their small ship. Light spilled out, guiding their way. "Could be a trap," Tom said, hand resting on his weapon. Jack considered their options, which were painfully few. "We have no way back and limited life support. We need to take the chance." He guided their damaged vessel toward the opening. As they entered the hangar, they could see that it was part of a much larger docking area, with spaces that could hold thousands of ships. All were empty except for theirs. The moment they landed, their ship's systems fully restored themselves. Power levels returning to normal, Ben reported with surprise. "It's as if something is fixing us remotely." "Prepare to disembark," Jack ordered. "Standard exploration protocols. Tom, you're armed, but weapons stay holstered unless absolutely necessary." The team exited their ship into the cavernous hangar. The air was breathable, the temperature comfortable, suspiciously so, as if the environment had been adjusted specifically for human needs. "Welcome," said the voice, now seeming to come from all around them. "Follow the path." Lights illuminated along the floor, forming a trail that led them deeper into the structure. As they walked, the walls around them seemed to shift subtly, displaying images of stars, planets, and galaxies. "It's showing us the universe," Anna said, mesmerized. "But some of these star systems, I don't recognize them." "They no longer exist," the voice explained. "What you see is history, the rise and fall of 1,000 civilizations before your council was born." The path led them to a vast circular chamber. In its center floated a pulsing crystal about the size of a human head. It glowed with an inner light that shifted between colors, blues, purples, and occasional flashes of brilliant gold. "The heart," the voice said simply. Jack approached cautiously. "What is this place? Who are you?" "This is the Nexus, built by those you would call the Ancients. I am its keeper. I have many names, but you may call me Guardian." Anna couldn't take her eyes off the crystal. "Is this some kind of power source?" "It is knowledge, memory, power, potential." The voice paused. "Approach, Dr. Reed." Anna froze. "How do you know my name?" "I learned much when I scanned your vessel. Your minds are fascinating, different from when I last encountered humans." Jack stepped in front of Anna protectively. "Why have you brought us here?" "Because the time approaches. The cycle continues, and humans—" The voice seemed to consider its words carefully. "Humans may be the key this time," Tom scoffed. "The key to what? Being used again? That's all we are to the galaxy, expendable risk-takers." "That is how they use you," the Guardian agreed. "But not what you are." The crystal pulsed more intensely, casting their shadows against the walls. "Dr. Reed," the voice said again. "The heart responds to you. Touch it and see." Jack shook his head. "Anna, I don't think—" "It's okay," she said, stepping forward. I think it wants to show us something important." Before Jack could stop her, Anna reached out and placed her palm against the crystal's surface. The effect was immediate. Anna gasped, her eyes widening. The crystal flared with brilliant light, its glow spreading up her arm and across her body. She didn't appear to be in pain, rather her face showed pure amazement. "Anna," Jack called, rushing forward. "I'm okay," she whispered, not taking her hand from the crystal. "I can see everything." For nearly a minute she remained connected to the heart. When she finally pulled away, Tears streaked down her cheeks. "What did you see?" Ben asked softly. Anna turned to them, her expression haunted. "Earth. I saw Earth burning. I saw war spreading. Across the galaxy, I saw the Vril." She stopped, shaking her head as if trying to clear it. "The heart shows many possibilities," the Guardian explained. "What was, what is, what could be." "Why does it respond to humans?" Jack asked. "What makes us special?" "Your minds are different," the Guardian said. "The ancients who built this place were much like you, curious, adaptable, emotional. Other species like the Vril have evolved toward logic and caution. Their minds cannot connect with the heart as yours can." Tom gestured around them. "So what exactly is all this for?" "The ancients built the Nexus as both a library and a weapon. They foresaw threats from beyond the limits of this galaxy. They created the heart to harness a power you cannot yet comprehend." Jack's mind raced with implications. "And you think humans should control this power?" "I make no such claim," the Guardian replied. "I merely observe that humans can access it. Whether you should is a question you must answer yourselves." Anna had been quiet, still processing what she had seen. Now she looked up sharply. "The Vril know about this place, don't they? That's why they keep humans under their thumb. They're afraid of what would happen if we found it." "The Vril have searched for the Nexus for millennia," the Guardian confirmed. "They discovered fragments of knowledge about its existence but could never locate it or activate its systems. They recognized the potential danger if humans ever mastered the heart's power." "And now we have," Tom said with a grim smile. "No," Anna countered quickly. "What I saw, the destruction, the war, it happens because we try to use this as a weapon. We need to be careful." Jack studied the crystal. "Can we bring this knowledge back to Earth? Share it with our people?" "The heart cannot leave the Nexus," the Guardian said. "But Dr. Reed now carries echoes of its knowledge. What she chooses to share is her decision." A sudden alarm blared through the chamber. The lights around them shifted to red. "We have visitors," the Guardian announced. "The anomaly has reopened." Jack's communications device crackled to life. Lisa's voice came through, tense and urgent. "Commander? A Vril battleship just appeared through the rift. They're demanding to know what we've found. Lord Krell himself is leading them." The team exchanged alarmed looks. "How did they find us so quickly?" Ben asked. Anna's face darkened with understanding. "They were watching. They've been watching all along, waiting for humans to do what they couldn't, locate the Nexus." "What now?" Tom asked, hand moving to his weapon. Jack made a quick decision. "We need to return to our ship. Guardian, will you close the anomaly after we leave? Keep this place hidden?" "I cannot," the voice replied. "The pathway is open, but I can give you time to escape." The ground beneath them trembled slightly. "Go," the Guardian urged. "Return to your people. Prepare them. The knowledge Dr. Reed carries may be the only hope when the true threat arrives." "What threat?" Jack demanded. "What's coming?" But the Guardian's presence seemed to fade. The path they had followed earlier re-illuminated, leading back to their ship. With no choice, they ran. As they reached their vessel, they could hear the distant sound of another ship docking. The Vril had arrived. "Everyone aboard now," Jack ordered, rushing to the controls. They departed the hangar just as the first Vril soldiers appeared. Their ship shot back toward the anomaly, the massive Vril battleship turning to pursue them. "What do we do with what we've learned?" Anna asked quietly as stars streaked past. Jack's expression was grim. "First, we survive long enough to get home. Then we decide whether to use this knowledge or hide it forever." Behind them, the Nexus grew smaller, its bronze surface gleaming against the darkness of space. The prize both humans and Vril had unknowingly sought for centuries had finally been found, and nothing would ever be the same again. Part 3, The Breaking Point. "Incoming fire," Lisa shouted as the ship rocked violently. The Vril battleship had launched its first volley, the energy beams narrowly missing their smaller vessel. "Evasive maneuvers," Jack ordered, gripping his command chair as the ship lurched. Ben, can you give us more speed? Ben's fingers flew across the engine controls. I'm pushing her to maximum, but that battleship is catching up. The anomaly loomed ahead of them, a shimmering tear in space that represented their only escape. Out. Behind them, the massive Vril ship closed the distance with alarming speed. They're hailing us, Lisa reported. Jack nodded. Put it through. Lord Krell's silver face appeared on the view screen, his normally composed features twisted with rage. Commander Wilson, you will surrender your vessel immediately. You have trespassed on an ancient site of immense importance. Trespassed? Jack laughed without humor. You sent us to investigate this anomaly. Not to enter it, Krell snapped. Return Dr. Reed to us, and the rest of your crew may live. Jack's blood ran cold. They knew about Anna's connection to the heart already. Someone had been feeding them information. How did you? We have been monitoring this sector for centuries, Krell interrupted. Your primitive ship systems are easily accessed. Now surrender, or be destroyed. Jack cut the transmission and turned to Anna. They know about you, about what you experienced. Anna's face had gone pale. The heart showed me something else I didn't mention. The Vril don't just want to study the Nexus, they want to use it as a weapon against other species they consider threats, including humans. We can discuss this after we escape, Tom said urgently. We're about to have bigger problems. The ship shuddered as another blast struck closer. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. Shield generators failing, Ben reported grimly. Jack made a quick decision. Everyone strap in, we're going to try something reckless. Now you're talking like a human, Tom said with a grim smile. Jack took manual control of the ship and cut their engines completely. The sudden loss of thrust caused their vessel to drop below the plane of pursuit. As the confused Vril ship overshot their position, Jack fired the engines at full power, shooting their vessel directly toward the anomaly. They're turning around, Lisa warned. Coming back fast. Too late, Jack said as their ship plunged into the shimmering light of the anomaly. The familiar disorientation followed, systems failing temporarily before they emerged on the other side, back in familiar space. The Vril battleship appeared moments later, still in pursuit. Send an emergency transmission to Earth, Jack ordered. Include everything we've learned about the Nexus. Encrypt it with my personal code. Lisa nodded, quickly composing the message. Sent. But it will take hours to reach Earth from this distance. We need to buy time, Jack said, studying the star chart. There's an asteroid field in the Ceres system. We might lose them there. For the next 6 hours, they led the Vril ship on a desperate chase through space. Their smaller vessel had the advantage of maneuverability, but they couldn't outrun the battleship forever. Every system was pushed to its limit, and the strain was beginning to show. We can't keep this up much longer, Ben warned, his face streaked with sweat as he worked to keep the engines from overheating. That's when they received the message from Earth. Commander Wilson, said Admiral Grant, his weathered face appearing on the view screen. Your message has caused quite a stir. An emergency council meeting has been called. Return to Earth immediately. We'll send an escort to your coordinates. Admiral, we have a Vril battleship in pursuit, Jack explained quickly. Lord Krell himself is commanding it. The Admiral's expression darkened. I'm dispatching 3 heavy cruisers to your location. Hold on, Commander. True to his word, less than an hour later, 3 of Earth's most powerful warships appeared from hyperspace. The Vril battleship, suddenly outgunned, backed off but continued shadowing them from a distance. Under the protection of the Earth fleet, they finally returned home. What they found there shocked them. Earth was in an uproar. Somehow, details about the Nexus and the Vril's true motives had leaked to the public. Protests filled the streets of every major city. Signs denounced the Galactic Council and the centuries of exploitation humans had endured. Humanity First read the largest banners. When they landed at the main spaceport in New Geneva, Jack and his team were immediately escorted to Earth's Central Command. Admiral Grant met them personally. The situation has deteriorated quickly, he explained as they walked through the secured corridors. Someone leaked classified information about your discovery and the Vril's reaction. People are angry. How bad is it? Jack asked. See for yourself. The Admiral gestured to a view screen showing massive crowds outside the Council embassy. The protesters' faces were twisted with anger as they shouted slogans against the Vril and other alien species. This wasn't what I wanted, Anna said quietly. They entered a large conference room where Earth's highest military and civilian leaders had gathered. At the center of the table sat President Davis, her face grave as she studied reports. Commander Wilson, she greeted him. Dr. Reed, you've stirred up quite the hornet's nest. Madam President, Jack acknowledged with a salute. We had no intention of causing a diplomatic incident. Perhaps it was long overdue, she replied. The Vril are demanding we turn over Dr. Reed and all information about the Nexus. The Council has backed their request. And your response? Tom asked boldly. I told them to go to hell, the President said simply. 200 years of being the galaxy's disposable heroes ends today. A murmur of approval went through the room. There's something you should know, Anna said, stepping forward. When I connected with the heart, I saw possible futures. Using the Nexus as a weapon leads to devastation, not just for the Vril, but for Earth as well. The President frowned. Are you suggesting we surrender this advantage? I'm suggesting we use it wisely, Anna replied. The knowledge it contains could transform our civilization without firing a shot. Before the President could respond, an aide rushed into the room. Madam President, there's been an incident at Research Facility 7. Everyone tensed. That was where they had been debriefed, where all the data from their mission was being stored. What kind of incident? The President demanded. An attack, the aide replied. A group calling themselves Humanity First broke in. They've taken hostages and are demanding access to all information about the Nexus. Jack exchanged alarmed glances with his team. Who's leading them? The aide hesitated. A man named Steve Miller. He's broadcasting his demands worldwide. A nearby screen activated, showing the face of a man in his 40s with hard eyes and a determined expression. People of Earth, Miller said, his voice calm but intense. For too long we've been the laughingstock of the galaxy, sent on suicide missions while advanced species mock our courage. The government has discovered a power that could change everything, yet they hesitate to use it. We will not squander this opportunity. Humanity will rise to its rightful place among the stars, by force if necessary. He's insane, Jack muttered. He has no idea what he's dealing with. Unfortunately, he has millions of supporters, Admiral Grant said grimly. This sentiment has been building for decades. The discovery of the Nexus was just the spark. The President turned to Anna. Dr. Reed, what exactly will happen if they try to use this knowledge as a weapon? Anna's eyes filled with the haunted look she'd had since touching the heart. The technology is beyond our understanding. Misusing it could trigger a chain reaction, destabilizing space-time throughout this sector. Billions would die, humans included. Then we need to stop them, Jack said firmly. Before they doom us all. It may already be too late. The President said, pointing to another screen. It showed the Vril battleship entering Earth's orbit, flanked by 5 additional warships. Lord Krell's voice came through the speakers. People of Earth, your actions constitute a direct threat to galactic security. Surrender all data regarding the Nexus immediately, or face the consequences. The room fell silent. They're afraid, Anna realized aloud. For the first time in centuries, the Vril are genuinely afraid of humans. Jack looked from the image of the Vril fleet to Miller's continuing broadcast. 2 sides pushing toward a confrontation that could end in disaster. We've spent centuries being mocked for our courage, he said quietly. Now we need to find a different kind of bravery, the courage to step back from the brink. But as alarms began to sound throughout the building, Jack wondered if anyone was still listening to reason. The breaking point had arrived. Sirens wailed throughout New Geneva as the Vril warships maintained their threatening position in Earth's orbit. On the streets below, crowds grew larger by the hour. What had started as protests had evolved into something more dangerous. People were arming themselves, their faces set with grim determination. In the central command bunker, Jack watched multiple screens with growing alarm. President Davis was locked in emergency talks with her advisors, while military leaders prepared defense plans. The atmosphere was thick with tension. "This is spiraling out of control," Jack said to Anna, who stood beside him studying the data from the Nexus. "Miller's people are gaining access to more sensitive information by the minute." Anna nodded grimly. "And they don't understand what they're dealing with. Look at this." She pointed to her screen where Miller's followers had begun analyzing fragments of the Nexus data. "They're interpreting the heart's energy signature as a weapon's blueprint." Tom approached, his expression serious. "Military just intercepted communications from 3 more Humanity First cells. They've taken control of satellite installations in Africa, South America, and Australia. They're trying to create a global network." "For what purpose?" Jack asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. "They think they can use Earth's combined communication arrays to replicate the heart's energy signature," Anna explained. "They believe it will disable Vril technology." "And will it?" Anna's face paled. "It won't just affect the Vril. If they succeed in generating even a fraction of the heart's power without proper containment, it could tear holes in space-time across the solar system." The doors to the command center slid open as President Davis entered, her face drawn with exhaustion. Admiral Grant followed close behind. "We have 30 minutes, the president announced. "The Vril Council has delivered their ultimatum. Either we surrender Dr. Reed and all Nexus data, or they'll begin military operations against Earth." "They can't seriously be threatening a full-scale invasion," Jack said. "That's exactly what they're threatening," Admiral Grant confirmed. "And, based on our intelligence, they've been preparing for this possibility for decades. They have the firepower to do significant damage." "What about our defenses?" Tom asked. "We could put up a fight," the Admiral acknowledged. "But the casualties would be catastrophic on both sides." Anna had been quiet, her fingers dancing across her tablet as she analyzed data. Now she looked up, her eyes filled with sudden urgency. "There's something else," she said. "Miller's group. They've somehow accessed part of my personal notes from the Nexus. They're attempting to activate a resonance pattern that could destabilize the anomaly itself." "Is that even possible?" Jack asked. "The heart showed me it was," Anna confirmed. "If they succeed, it would create a cascading reaction. The anomaly would expand, potentially swallowing our entire solar system." President Davis stared at her. "And they're doing this deliberately?" "No," Anna said, shaking her head. "They think they're creating a defensive shield. They don't understand the consequences." The president turned to Jack. "Commander Wilson, I need options. Military solutions don't appear viable, and diplomacy has failed." Jack studied the various screens showing the crisis unfolding from multiple angles: the Vril fleet, Miller's growing movement, the panicking public. An idea began to form. "We need to speak to both sides simultaneously," he said finally. "Not through diplomatic channels or military threats, but directly to the people, all people." "A broadcast?" the president asked. "Yes, but not from you or any political figure," Jack said. "From Dr. Reed. She's the only one who truly understands what's at stake because she connected with the heart." All eyes turned to Anna, who looked startled. "Me? I'm a scientist, not a public speaker." "That's exactly why it needs to be you," Jack insisted. "This isn't about politics or military strategy. It's about truth." After a moment of consideration, the president nodded. "Make it happen. Use the emergency broadcast system. Global reach. All channels." Technicians worked frantically to set up the broadcast. Anna sat quietly, gathering her thoughts while Jack stood supportively at her side. "What if this doesn't work?" she whispered to him. "Then at least we tried something other than threats and violence," he replied. "Sometimes the bravest thing isn't charging forward, it's knowing when to take a step back." 20 minutes later, Anna Reed's face appeared on screens across Earth and was transmitted to the Vril fleet. She looked nervous but determined. "People of Earth and representatives of the Vril Confederation," she began. "My name is Dr. Anna Reed. I am the human who touched the ancient artifact known as the heart within the Nexus." She took a deep breath before continuing. "What I experienced there wasn't just knowledge or power, it was understanding. The heart showed me many possible futures, and in nearly all of them where we choose confrontation, both humans and Vril suffer catastrophic losses." Images began to appear beside her, visualizations she had created from her memories of the heart's visions. They showed devastated planets, shattered fleets, and worse, tears in the fabric of space itself, expanding to consume entire star systems. "The technology of the ancients isn't meant to be a weapon," she continued. "It's meant to be a shield, not against each other, but against a greater threat that lies beyond our galaxy. A threat the ancients foresaw and prepared for." She looked directly into the camera. "To Steve Miller and the Humanity First movement, I understand your anger. For centuries, humans have been treated as second-class citizens of the galaxy, valued only for our willingness to take risks others won't. But the path you're choosing will destroy everything, not elevate humanity." She turned slightly, as if addressing the Vril now. "And to Lord Krell and the Vril Confederation, your fear is justified. The heart does respond uniquely to human minds, but your response, threats, and military action will only create the very outcome you fear." Anna's voice grew stronger. "The real courage isn't in fighting. Sometimes the greatest courage is in stepping back, in choosing restraint when every instinct screams for action." At Research Facility 7, Miller watched the broadcast, his face troubled as Anna's words resonated with many of his followers. Some had already lowered their weapons, uncertain. In the lead Vril warship, Lord Krell observed with narrow eyes, noting the reaction of his officers to the human woman's unexpected wisdom. Anna continued, "I propose a different path. Neither surrender nor war, but collaboration. The heart showed me that humans and Vril working together could unlock the Nexus's true purpose, a shield for all sentient life in our galaxy." She leaned forward, her expression intense. "True courage isn't just risking your life. Sometimes the braver choice is to risk your pride, to admit fear, to extend a hand rather than a fist." In the central command bunker, Jack watched various monitors showing reactions. On the streets, the crowds had grown quieter, listening. In the satellite facilities, some of Miller's followers had stopped their work on the Resonance Project. "It's working," he whispered. Anna's broadcast continued. "I am willing to share everything I learned from the heart, with both humans and Vril, under the condition that we form a joint research team with equal representation. No secrets, no advantages, no exploitation." She paused, then spoke her final words with quiet authority. "The ancients chose extinction rather than misuse the power they had created. Are we wiser than they were? Can we find the courage not to fight, but to collaborate, to put aside centuries of mockery and resentment for the sake of all our futures?" As her broadcast ended, silence fell across command centers, streets, and spaceships alike. For several tense minutes, no one moved. Then Jack's communication device signaled an incoming message from the Vril flagship. "Lord Krell is requesting to speak with Dr. Reed," Lisa reported, her voice tinged with disbelief. Almost simultaneously, a message came through from Research Facility 7. "Miller wants to talk," Tom said. "He's asking for a ceasefire and negotiations." Jack exchanged a look with Anna, whose shoulders sagged with relief. "It seems," President Davis said quietly, "that you've given both sides something they've lacked." "For a very long time, Dr. Reed." "What's that?" Anna asked. "A face-saving way to retreat from the brink," the president replied. "Sometimes that's all anyone really needs." Outside, the first Vril shuttle descended toward Earth, not carrying soldiers, but diplomats. The long standoff was ending not with an explosion of violence, but with the harder, braver path of dialogue. Jack placed a hand on Anna's shoulder. "Turns out the true test of courage wasn't what any of us expected." Anna nodded. "The heart knew that all along. Perhaps that's why it chose humans, not for our recklessness, but for our capacity to surprise, even ourselves. 1 month after Anna Reid's broadcast, the landscape of human-Vril relations had transformed dramatically. The massive conference room in New Geneva hummed with activity as scientists, diplomats, and military personnel from both species worked side by side. Holographic displays showed the nexus from various angles, with teams analyzing different aspects of the ancient structure. Jack watched from a balcony overlooking the operation, still amazed by how quickly things had changed. Beside him stood President Davis, her expression thoughtful. If someone had told me 2 months ago that we'd have Vril scientists working alongside humans as equals, I would have called them delusional, the president said. Jack nodded. Fear and respect often look similar from a distance. Speaking of which, the president said, gesturing toward the entrance where Lord Krell was arriving, flanked by 2 aides rather than armed guards, a significant change from his previous visits to Earth. The tall, silver-skinned Vril ambassador moved through the room, drawing stares but no longer the fearful deference of before. He spotted Jack and made his way up to the balcony. Commander Wilson, Lord Krell greeted him with a formal bow, a human gesture he had recently adopted. I trust the joint security protocols are satisfactory? They are, Jack confirmed. Our teams have established a perimeter around the anomaly. No unauthorized vessels will approach the Nexus. Lord Krell seemed pleased. Excellent. And Dr. Reid? How is her work progressing? See for yourself, Jack said, pointing to the center of the activity where Anna stood surrounded by both human and Vril scientists. Anna had become the natural leader of the joint research effort. Her direct connection to the heart gave her insights no one else possessed, and her balanced approach had earned respect from both sides. Currently, she was explaining a complex energy pattern displayed on a large holographic projection. The heart isn't just a repository of knowledge, Anna was saying. It's a key to understanding the very fabric of space-time. The ancients discovered that reality is far more malleable than we realized. A Vril scientist, one who had previously dismissed humans as primitive, was now hanging on her every word, asking insightful questions that Anna answered patiently. Remarkable, Lord Krell murmured. In all our history, I cannot recall a collaboration of this nature. Fear is a powerful motivator, President Davis noted. Lord Krell's expression changed subtly, the Vril equivalent of a wry smile. Indeed, though I would suggest that the prospect of mutual destruction was not the only factor. Jack raised an eyebrow. Oh? Dr. Reid's approach was unexpected, Lord Krell admitted. For millennia, the Vril have valued caution above all else. We observed how humans would rush headlong into danger, and we deemed this reckless, primitive. He paused, watching Anna guide her team through a complex simulation. We failed to recognize that there are different forms of courage, he continued. The courage to fight, yes, but also the courage to extend trust, to collaborate rather than dominate, to admit error. President Davis seemed surprised by this philosophical turn. That's quite an evolution in thinking, Lord Krell. Evolution is necessary for survival, the Vril replied simply. Static species do not endure. Their conversation was interrupted as Tom Martinez approached, tablet in hand. Since the crisis, Tom had been appointed head of security for the Joint Research Project, a position that required him to work directly with Vril security forces. The former soldier who once harbored deep resentment toward the Vril now coordinated daily operations with them. We've completed the analysis of Miller's network, Tom reported. Most of his followers have stood down, but we've identified 3 cells still attempting to access Nexus data. Are they a threat? Jack asked. Tom shook his head. Not anymore. Their access has been cut off and we're monitoring them closely. Miller himself has been surprisingly cooperative since meeting with Dr. Reid. Another unexpected development, Lord Krell observed. Anna has that effect on people, Jack said with a smile. Below them, the research area shifted as a new hologram appeared, a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with several points highlighted in red. Anna's voice carried up to them. These are the locations the heart identified as potential breach points, she explained to the gathered scientists. The ancients detected something they called the encroachment, a force or entity from outside our reality that periodically attempts to enter our universe. The scientists, both human and vril, studied the map with intense focus. The nexus was created not as a weapon against other species, Anna continued, but as a detection and defense system against this external threat. The heart responds to human neural patterns because our brains are structurally similar to those of the ancients, which explains why the vril could never activate it, a human scientist remarked. Precisely, Anna confirmed, but operating the system requires both human intuition and vril precision. Neither species could do it alone. Jack turned to Lord Krell. Convenient how that worked out, isn't it? Lord Krell's eyes narrowed slightly. You suggest this was planned? That our species were meant to collaborate? The ancients were advanced beyond our comprehension, Jack said with a shrug. Maybe they foresaw not just the external threat, but the internal conflicts as well. President Davis checked her watch. The council representatives will be arriving soon. Are we prepared for the presentation? Anna has been rehearsing for days, Jack confirmed. This will change everything. 2 hours later, the full Galactic Council had assembled in New Geneva's Grand Assembly, the first time the entire council had ever convened on Earth. Representatives from 32 spacefaring civilizations watched as Anna Reed took the central podium, flanked by Jack and Lord Krell in a powerful symbol of human-vril cooperation. Distinguished representatives, Anna began, her voice steady despite the momentous occasion. Today marks not just a new chapter in relations between humans and the vril, but a turning point for our entire galaxy. The holographic displays activated, showing the nexus and the mysterious red points scattered throughout the galaxy map. What I am about to share comes directly from the ancient repository known as the Heart, Anna continued. For millions of years, our galaxy has been protected by a network of defenses established by a civilization that predates all of ours. They faced a threat from beyond the boundaries of our reality, a threat that returns in cycles spanning thousands of years. Murmurs spread through the assembly as the implications sank in. According to the Heart's calculations, Anna said, her voice growing more solemn, the next incursion is due within the next century. The chamber fell silent. The good news, she continued, is that the ancients left us the tools to detect and defend against this threat. The Nexus is one of several such installations scattered throughout the galaxy. Together they form a shield, but only if activated properly. She gestured to Lord Krell. The vril have contributed their unparalleled precision and technological expertise. Then to Jack. Humans have provided the necessary neural compatibility and adaptive thinking. Neither could have succeeded alone. Anna stepped back, allowing Lord Krell to address the council. For centuries, the vril ambassador began, we have viewed humans as impulsive and reckless, qualities we viewed as dangerous. We now recognize these traits as valuable when balanced with our own tendencies toward excessive caution. He turned to face the human delegation. We mocked humans for their courage, never realizing that our mockery stemmed from our own fear, not of humans themselves, but of what their unpredictability represented. The council representatives watched in astonishment as Lord Krell formally bowed to the humans. On behalf of the Vril Confederation, I extend not just an apology, but an invitation. The new Nexus Treaty will establish equal status for Earth within the Galactic Council, with joint leadership of the Ancient Defense Initiative. Jack stepped forward next. Humanity accepts this invitation not as conquerors or victims, but as partners. The courage to fight is valuable, but so is the courage to cooperate, to set aside pride and work toward a common goal. As the council erupted in discussion, Anna caught Jack's eye and smiled. They had come so far from that small research vessel entering the anomaly just weeks ago. Later, as the formal proceedings ended and the various delegates mingled, Lord Krell approached Jack in a quiet corner of the reception hall. There is something I have wished to ask you, Commander, the Vril said, his voice lower than usual. What's that? Jack asked. Lord Krell seemed to hesitate, uncharacteristic for a Vril. Why did humans never retaliate? For centuries we treated your kind as inferiors, used you for dangerous missions, mocked your nature. Yet when you finally discovered power that could have given you dominance, you chose partnership instead. Jack considered the question carefully. I think because deep down we always knew something you're only just learning. And what is that? That true strength isn't found in domination, Jack said. It's found in connection, in the space between species, between ideas. He smiled slightly. Perhaps that's what the ancients understood all along. Lord Krell was quiet for a long moment before responding. Perhaps we mocked humans for centuries because, in truth, we feared what you might become. His silver eyes met Jack's. We never expected you would become our allies. Together they looked out at the gathering, humans and Vril and representatives from dozens of worlds, no longer separated by ancient prejudices, but united by a new understanding. The war that nearly began had transformed into something far more powerful. A peace built not on fear or dominance, but on the most courageous act of all, reaching across the divide to a former adversary and finding common ground. That, Jack realized, was the greatest discovery of all. Captain Jack Reynolds stood on the bridge of the Resilience, his eyes fixed on the main screen. His jaw tightened as the transmission came through. He was a tall man with short gray hair who had spent 30 years in Earth's space fleet. In all those years, he had never felt so insulted. On the screen, Lord Vex of the Galactic Empire adjusted his ornate uniform. His pale blue skin looked almost white under the bright lights of his command center. Behind him stood a row of officers, all trying not to smile. You call this a ship? Lord Vex said. His voice was deep and smooth but filled with mockery. This is what Earth sends to meet the Empire? Jack felt his hands close into fists. He knew the Resilience wasn't pretty. Earth had used up most of its rare metals during the climate wars. Engineers had to use whatever they could find. The ship looked like a mix of old parts welded together. Some panels were gray, others were brown or black. Pipes and wires showed on the outside. But underneath all that, the Resilience held Earth's best technology. Look at those welding marks, Lord Vex continued. He pointed at a picture of the Resilience. Did children build this vessel? And these mismatched hull plates? Did you collect them from a junkyard? The Imperial officers behind him now laughed openly. One of them whispered something and Lord Vex smiled wider. And what is this designation? 07JF? Lord Vex read from a datapad. Let me guess what that means. 0 capability, 0 threat, 7 junk freighters glued together. The Imperial Command Center filled with laughter. Jack felt his face grow hot. Next to him, Lieutenant Emma Davis, the ship's tactical officer, stood with her back straight, and her face blank. But Jack could see the anger in her eyes. Emma was young, maybe 30, with short black hair and dark skin. She had worked on the Resilience since it was built. Sir, she whispered to Jack. They don't know what they're talking about. I know, Jack said quietly. Let them laugh. On the screen, Lord Vex was still enjoying himself. Your application to join the Galactic Council has been received, Captain Reynolds, and it has been denied. He picked up a physical copy of Earth's application and tore it in half. The Empire does not associate with primitive species who think scrap metal qualifies as a starship. The screen went black as the transmission ended. Admiral Thomas Harris, who had been watching from the side of the bridge, stepped forward. He was older than Jack, with a completely bald head and tired eyes. Well, he said, that could have gone better. Emma turned to face them both. Sir, they just insulted Earth in front of the entire galaxy. That transmission was broadcast on all channels. Everyone saw it. Yes, the Admiral said. They meant to embarrass us, to show everyone how weak they think we are. Jack walked to the front window of the bridge. From here, he could see the curved edge of Earth's atmosphere, glowing blue against the blackness of space. What do we do now, sir? He asked the Admiral. Admiral Harris joined him at the window. Now? He paused. Now we show them what humans can really do. 2 hours later, Jack walked through the narrow corridors of the Resilience with Dr. Alan West, the ship's chief engineer. Alan was a short man with wild gray hair and hands that never seemed to stop moving. "They think we're just a bunch of people playing with leftover parts," Alan said as they walked. "That's exactly what we wanted." They stopped at a section of wall that looked like all the others. Mismatched metal with visible seams. Alan pressed his hand against it and a hidden door slid open. Inside was a small elevator. "This goes to the real heart of the ship," Alan said. "Most of the crew doesn't even know it exists." The elevator took them down, deep into the center of the Resilience. When the doors opened, Jack stepped into a room that looked nothing like the rest of the ship. Here, everything was smooth, clean, and clearly advanced. The walls glowed with soft blue light, and screens showed data that moved. Too fast for Jack to read. "Welcome to the true Resilience," Alan said with pride in his voice. "This is what we've been hiding." Jack had seen this room before, but it still amazed him. The Empire thinks we're hundreds of years behind them, which is exactly the point. Alan led him to a large circular platform in the center of the room. They build their ships to be perfect, symmetrical, beautiful, powerful, but that makes them predictable. Alan waved his hand over the platform, and a 3D image appeared, a detailed model of the Resilience. "See these weird hull plates they laughed at?" Alan pointed to the outer shell of the ship. "Each one contains thousands of tiny sensors. They look different because they're designed to detect different things: heat, radiation, energy signatures, everything." The image zoomed in, showing the complex technology hidden within the ship's rough exterior. "And the welding seams they mocked? Those contain our quantum communication system. They can transmit data instantly to any part of the ship or back to Earth, no matter the distance." Jack nodded. "And they think it's just poor craftsmanship." "Exactly." Alan clapped his hands together. "But this is the best part." He changed the image to show the very core of the Resilience. Inside was what looked like a ball of liquid silver, constantly moving and changing shape. "Smart matter," Jack said quietly. "Yes. Our greatest achievement." Alan's voice was full of pride. "Billions of nanites working together, learning and adapting. They can rebuild and repair any part of the ship in seconds. They can even change the ship's internal structure if needed." Jack watched the moving silver substance with fascination. "Does it work? Have we tested it in real conditions?" "Simulations only," Alan admitted. "That's why we've been trying to join the Galactic Council peacefully. We needed more time to perfect it." He turned to Jack with a serious expression. "But now that the Empire has rejected us, we might not have that time." "You think they'll attack?" Jack asked. "I think they see us as a primitive species with resources they might want. And primitive species don't need to be respected, they need to be conquered." Jack's communicator beeped. It was Emma from the bridge. "Captain," she said, her voice tense. "We're picking up unusual movement at the edge of our solar system. Multiple Imperial ships have just dropped out of hyperspace. They're on an approach vector toward Earth." Jack looked at Alan. "Seems like you were right." "Always the pessimist," Alan said with a sad smile. "What are your orders, Captain?" Jack thought for a moment. Then his face hardened with determination. "Tell the crew to prepare for contact," he said into his communicator. "But not as they expect. It's time to show the Empire what 07JF really means." As Jack and Alan hurried back to the elevator, the ship's warning systems began to sound. The Resilience, Earth's ugly, mocked, underestimated vessel, was about to face its first real test. And the Empire was about to learn a painful lesson about judging a ship by its appearance. "Imperial ships entering the outer solar system," Emma reported from her station on the bridge. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel as she tracked the incoming vessels. "I count 5 cruisers, heavy class." Jack stood behind her, watching the screen. The Imperial ships looked beautiful, smooth white curves with glowing blue engines. Each one was at least 3 times larger than the Resilience. "Time until they reach us?" he asked. At their current speed, 4 hours, Emma said. They're moving slowly, almost like they're not worried about us. Admiral Harris joined them at the tactical station. They're not worried. They think we're primitive. Let's use that. Jack nodded. Prepare the crew for action, but keep our real systems hidden. When they scan us, I want them to see exactly what they expect. A weak ship made of scrap. Yes, sir, Emma said. She pressed a button on her console and spoke into a microphone. All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Throughout the ship, crew members moved quickly to their positions, but unlike a normal battle preparation, many of them went to secret rooms hidden behind false walls. The Resilience had 2 crews, the visible one and the hidden one. Jack turned to the Admiral. Sir, we should get you to the emergency shuttle. If this goes wrong, I'm staying right here, Admiral Harris cut him off. I didn't spend 40 years in Earth's fleet to run when things get interesting. Jack smiled. Yes, sir. Dr. Allen appeared on the bridge, carrying a small silver case. Captain, I have something for you. He opened the case to reveal what looked like a simple metal bracelet. This connects directly to the smart matter core. If something happens to the bridge, you can control the ship's functions from anywhere. Cal put the bracelet on his wrist. It felt cool against his skin. Will they be able to detect it? No, Allen said. It doesn't use any energy until you activate it. To them, it will just look like a piece of metal. The next 4 hours passed slowly. The crew checked and rechecked their systems. Some ate what might be their last meal. Others wrote messages to their families back on Earth. Jack sat in his captain's chair, studying the data they had on Imperial ships, their weapons, their shields, their weak points. The Empire had never seen humans as a threat, so they had never hidden this information. Finally, Emma looked up from her station. They're here, Captain. The Imperial ships have entered Earth orbit. They're hailing us. Jack straightened in his chair. Put them on screen. The main screen lit up, showing the bridge of the lead Imperial cruiser. Lord Vex stood in the center, looking even more smug than before. Captain Reynolds, he said with a cold smile. I hope we're not interrupting anything important, like perhaps repairing your interesting vessel? Jack kept his face neutral. Lord Vex, what brings the Empire to Earth? After our last conversation, the Imperial Council felt it would be wise to inspect your world more closely, to see if there are any resources or knowledge that might benefit the Empire. Lord Vex's smile never reached his eyes. We'll begin with your ship. Prepare to be boarded. Boarded? Jack repeated. We have not agreed to that. Lord Vex laughed. You misunderstand, Captain. I am not asking for permission. The smile disappeared from his face. You will open your docking bay in 1 hour, or we will open it for you. Is that clear? The screen went dark before Jack could respond. They're going to try to take the ship, Emma said quietly. Yes, Jack agreed. And that's exactly what we want. 1 hour later, the Resilience opened its main docking bay. A small, Imperial shuttle entered, carrying 20 soldiers in white armor and 2 officers in dark blue uniforms. Jack, Emma, and a small group of crew members met them at the airlock. They had all changed into simple gray uniforms with no weapons. The Imperial officers stepped forward. The taller one spoke first. I am Commander Dex of the Imperial Fleet. By order of Lord Vex, this vessel is now under Imperial control. You will provide us with full access to all systems and technologies. Jack bowed his head slightly. Of course, Commander. We are a peaceful people. We will cooperate fully. Commander Dex looked surprised for a moment, then smiled. Good. Very sensible. Now, take us to your engine room. Jack led the Imperial group through the corridors of the Resilience. He made sure to take them past the oldest and most worn-out parts of the ship, areas where pipes leaked steam and wires hung from the ceiling. The Imperial soldiers whispered to each other, clearly unimpressed. One of them ran his finger along a wall and looked at the dust with disgust. This is how you maintain a flagship? Commander Dex asked. I'm surprised this vessel can even leave your atmosphere. We do our best with what we have, Jack said humbly. They reached the main engine room. The public one, not the hidden one. It was filled with loud, old-looking machines that puffed out steam and made grinding noises. Commander Dex looked around in disbelief. This is primitive technology. Worse than primitive. This is ancient. He turned to Jack. My ship's waste. Disposal system is more advanced than your entire engine. Your empire is very impressive, Jack said, lowering his eyes. We have much to learn. The second Imperial officer, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. Unlike the commander, she seemed curious rather than dismissive. But how does it work? These systems shouldn't be compatible with each other. We adapt, Jack said simply. We find ways to make things work together. The female officer walked around the room, studying the equipment. Something's not right, she said quietly. These energy readings don't match the output we detected. Commander Dex waved his hand dismissively. It's just poorly calibrated equipment. What do you expect from savages? He turned back to Jack. Take us to your command center. As they walked back through the corridors, Jack pressed a hidden button on his bracelet. Throughout the ship, the true crew of the Resilience prepared to act. They reached the bridge, where Admiral Harris waited. The Imperial commander barely glanced at him before walking to the captain's chair and sitting in it. This will be my command post until we complete our inspection, Commander Dex announced. Your crew will remain on board but confined to quarters. Actually, Jack said, his voice suddenly different, stronger, more confident. I have a better idea. Commander Dex looked up in surprise. Excuse me? You came here thinking we were weak, Jack continued, that we had nothing of value except maybe some resources you could take. You called our ship scrap, junk, you laughed at us. The commander stood up, his hand moving to his weapon. Watch your tone, primitive. That's the problem with your empire, Jack said, taking a step forward. You judge everything by how it looks, how perfect and shiny it is. You never stop to think that maybe, just maybe, something ugly might be dangerous. Enough, Commander. Dex pulled out his weapon, a sleek silver pistol that hummed with energy. You will be silent or you will be dead. Jack smiled. How about option 3? He pressed his bracelet again, and the lights on the bridge went out. When they came back on 3 seconds later, everything looked the same, except the walls had changed color, shifting from dull gray to a shimmering silver. What is this? Commander Dex demanded, looking around in confusion. This, Jack said, is the real Resilience. Not what you see, but what you missed. The silver color spread across the floor, flowing like water. It reached the Imperial soldiers and began to climb up their legs. Their weapons melted in their hands, the metal flowing away like quicksilver. Smart matter, Jack explained as the Imperial officers stared in horror. Billions of tiny machines that can become almost anything. Right now they're disarming you, but they could do much more if I asked them to. Commander Dex's face had gone pale. This is impossible. Your species doesn't have this technology. No, Admiral Harris said, stepping forward. According to your records, we don't. And that's exactly why we have it. Outside, in space, the Resilience's rough exterior began to change. The mismatched hull plates shifted position, aligning themselves into perfect, symmetrical patterns. Hidden weapon ports opened along the hull, revealing technology that no Imperial scanner had detected. On the Imperial command ship, Lord Vex watched in growing horror as the ugly Earth vessel transformed before his eyes. Still think we're primitive? Jack's voice came through on all Imperial channels. Let me show you what 00 Southern JF really stands for. And with that, Earth's first real battle against the Galactic Empire began. Lord Vex stared at the screen on his command ship in disbelief. The ugly Earth vessel was changing before his eyes. The mismatched hull plates were moving, shifting into perfect alignment. The exposed pipes and wires were disappearing, pulled back into the hull. Even the color was changing from a mix of dull metals to a smooth silver surface that seemed to flow like liquid. Impossible, he whispered. An alarm blared through his ship. His tactical officer looked up from her station with fear in her eyes. My Lord, we're detecting energy readings from the Earth vessel. They're powering weapons we didn't know they had. All ships, raise shields, Lord Vex ordered. Target that vessel and... Before he could finish, a bright beam of energy shot from the Resilience and struck one of the Imperial cruisers. The cruiser's shields flashed bright blue for a moment, then collapsed completely. A second beam hit the same spot, and the cruiser's engine section exploded in a ball of fire. How? Lord Vex demanded. How did they penetrate our shields with one shot? No one on his bridge had an answer. Inside the Resilience, Jack stood on the bridge watching the Imperial ships scramble to defensive positions. The captured Imperial soldiers and Commander Dex were being held in a section of the ship where the walls themselves had formed into a secure prison cell. Their shields operate on a frequency rotation, Emma explained from her tactical station. Our sensors detected the pattern, and the smart matter adjusted our weapons to match it perfectly. Jack nodded. Target their weapon systems next. Disable, don't destroy. Yes, sir, Emma said, her fingers dancing over the control panel. Firing now. The Resilience fired again, precise beams of energy striking each Imperial ship exactly where their main weapon banks were located. One by one, the Imperial vessels lost their ability to fire back. We have a transmission from Lord Vex, Emma reported. Put him on screen, Jack ordered. Lord Vex's face appeared, his blue skin now pale with shock and anger. What is the meaning of this? You tricked us. You hid your true technology. Yes, Jack agreed calmly. We did, just like you planned to. Trick us with your talk of inspection. We both know you came here to conquer Earth, not to talk. Lord Vex's eyes narrowed. How did you develop this technology without our knowledge? Our spies reported nothing like this. That's the problem. With being powerful for too long, Admiral Harris said, stepping into view, you get lazy, careless. You assume everyone less advanced than you must be stupid. You've made a serious mistake, Lord Vex said coldly. This was just a small fleet. The Empire will send hundreds more ships. Thousands. You cannot hope to stand against our full might. Maybe not, Jack admitted, but we can make it very, very expensive for you to try. He nodded to Emma, who pressed a button on her console. The screen split to show the view from a different camera. It showed Commander Dex and his soldiers in their cell, looking confused and afraid as the silver walls shifted around them. Your boarding party is unharmed, Jack said. We'll return them to you once your remaining ships retreat to a safe distance. But know this, if you come back with more ships, we won't be so gentle next time. Lord Vex's face twisted with rage. This isn't over, human, not by far. The transmission cut off. Jack looked at the tactical display. The 4 remaining Imperial ships were pulling back, moving away from Earth orbit. They're retreating, Emma confirmed, but I'm detecting communications being sent back toward Imperial space. They're calling for reinforcements. Jack nodded. As expected. How long do we have? Dr. Allen checked a different screen. Based on Imperial fleet deployments we've observed, maybe 3 days before their nearest major force arrives. Then we have work to do, Jack said. He turned to Admiral Harris. Sir, we need to activate the other ships. The Admiral nodded. I'll contact Earth Command immediately. 2 hours later, Jack stood in a large meeting room aboard the Resilience. The walls displayed live video feeds from 20 different locations around Earth. On each screen was the face of another ship captain, men and women of different ages and backgrounds, but all wearing the same gray uniform of Earth's fleet. Now you've all heard what happened, Jack said. The Empire came looking for an easy conquest, and they found something they didn't expect. But they'll be back, and in much greater numbers. How many ships? Asked Captain Robert Bell of the Defiance, Earth's second-largest vessel. Our intelligence suggests at least 100, Admiral Harris answered from his seat beside Jack. Possibly more. A murmur ran through the assembled captains. We can't fight that many, someone said. Even with our hidden technology. Not as we are now, Jack agreed, but we won't be fighting as we are now. He nodded to Dr. Allen, who stood up. Most of you know that the Resilience was our test ship for the smart matter technology, Alan began. What you don't know is that we've been producing much more of it than we needed for just one ship. He pressed a button, and the screens changed to show a massive underground facility. Inside were huge tanks filled with what looked like liquid silver, the same material that now coursed through the Resilience. For the past 5 years, we've been making smart matter in secret, Alan continued, waiting for the right moment. That moment is now. Admiral Harris stood up. Starting immediately, all Earth ships will be upgraded with smart matter technology. Your vessels may look like scrap to the Empire, but they'll soon be the most advanced warships in the galaxy. How long will this take? Asked Captain Mary, Lee of the Courage. 24 hours for the initial integration, Alan answered. The smart matter will continue to improve your ships over time as it learns and adapts. Jack stepped forward again. The Empire thinks they know what they're facing, one advanced ship that got lucky. They have no idea that when they return, they'll find an entire fleet. The captains looked at each other, a new sense of hope spreading through the room. Any questions? Jack asked. Captain Bell raised his hand. What does 007JF actually stand for? Lord Vex thought it meant 0 capability, 0 threat, 7 junk freighters. What's the real meaning? Jack smiled. It started as just a random designation, but now it means 0 warnings, 0 mercy, 7 minutes to failure. Because that's how long it will take us to disable any Imperial ship that threatens Earth. 2 days later, the Resilience floated in space above Earth, but it no longer looked like the patchwork vessel that the Empire had mocked. Its hull gleamed silver in the sunlight, smooth and perfect. Around it floated 40 other ships, Earth's entire fleet, all transformed by the smart matter technology. On the bridge, Jack and Emma watched the long-range sensors looking for signs of the Imperial reinforcements. There, Emma said, pointing to a cluster of dots appearing at the edge of the solar system. Imperial ships dropping out of hyperspace. A lot of them. Jack counted the signals. 120 ships. Impressive. He didn't sound worried. In fact, he was smiling. Should we move to intercept? Emma asked. Not yet, Jack replied. Let them come to us. Let them see what they're really facing. Dr. Allen joined them at the tactical station. The smart matter upgrade worked better than expected. Every ship is now at 100% combat readiness. And the special project? Jack asked. Alan's eyes twinkled. Ready and waiting for your command. Jack nodded, then pressed a button on his chair. His voice carried to every ship in Earth's fleet. This is Captain Reynolds. The Empire is returning, just as we knew they would. They think they know what they're facing. They think one advanced ship was a fluke, a lucky break. They're expecting to find a primitive planet with one good ship. He paused, looking out at the transformed fleet around him. Let's show them how wrong they are. As the Imperial fleet drew closer, Earth ships moved into formation. The Resilience led the way, its newly refined weapons systems glowing with power. The first real battle for Earth's survival was about to begin, and the Empire was about to learn the true meaning of 007JF. The Imperial fleet moved through space like a perfect deadly dance, 120 ships arranged in precise formation. At the center was the Emperor's Fist, Lord Vex's new flagship, 5 times larger than any other vessel in the Mao fleet. On its bridge, Lord Vex watched the approaching Earthships with cold eyes. They've upgraded all their vessels, his tactical officer reported. All 43 of them now show the same energy signature as the first one. Lord Vex nodded. It doesn't matter. We still outnumber them nearly 3-1, and now we know what to expect. He turned to his fleet commander. Order all ships to adjust their shield frequencies randomly. That should counter their main advantage. Yes, my lord. The commander sent the order to the fleet. Lord Vex smiled thinly. Begin the attack. Show no mercy. The Imperial fleet surged forward, weapons charging. But the Earthships didn't move to meet them. Instead, they stopped and held their position just outside the orbit of Earth's moon. What are they doing? Lord Vex wondered aloud. On the Resilience, Jack watched the Imperial fleet approaching. Beside him, Emma tracked their movements on her tactical display. "They've changed their shield configurations," she reported. "Random frequency shifts every 3 seconds." Jack nodded. "They've learned from last time. Good." Admiral Harris looked concerned. "We won't be able to cut through their shields as easily now." "We don't need to," Jack said. He turned to Dr. Allen. "Is the special project ready?" Allen grinned. "Ready and waiting, Captain." Jack pressed a button on his chair. "All ships move to position Alpha. Execute special project on my mark." Earth's 43 ships suddenly broke formation. Instead of staying together in a defensive line, they scattered in all directions, moving at incredible speeds. On the Emperor's fist, Lord Vex frowned. "What is this, some kind of retreat?" "No, my lord," his tactical officer said, sounding confused. They're moving into the asteroid belt." The space between Mars and Jupiter contained thousands of asteroids, chunks of rock and metal, left over from the formation of the solar system. Earth's ships darted between these asteroids, seemingly at random. "Follow them," Lord Vex ordered. "Don't let them escape." The Imperial fleet changed course, pursuing the Earth ships into the asteroid belt. But the large, perfectly symmetrical Imperial vessels struggled to navigate the cluttered space. Several smaller ships collided with asteroids, their shields flashing as they deflected the impacts. "This is ridiculous," Lord Vex muttered. "Why would they—" "Wait." His eyes narrowed. "Scan those asteroids. Now." His tactical officer worked quickly, then looked up in alarm. "My lord, some of those asteroids are giving off energy readings. They're not natural." "It's a trap," Lord Vex shouted. "All ships pull back immediately." But it was too late. Throughout the asteroid belt, hundreds of what had appeared to be normal space rocks suddenly began to change. Their surfaces rippled and flowed, revealing the same silver material that now covered Earth's ships. "Smart matter," Lord Vex whispered in horror. "They've seeded the entire asteroid belt with it." Jack's voice came through on all Imperial channels. "That's right, Lord Vex. For years we've been sending what you thought were primitive mining drones into the asteroid belt. But they weren't mining. They were delivering." On the Resilience, Jack gave the order. "Execute special project, now, all." Across the asteroid belt, the smart matter-infused asteroids began to move. Not drifting aimlessly as asteroids should, but changing direction with purpose. They accelerated, targeting the Imperial ships. "Evasive maneuvers," Lord Vex screamed, but his fleet, designed for organized battle in open space, couldn't move quickly enough in the cluttered asteroid field. The first wave of smart asteroids slammed into Imperial ships, but instead of simply crashing into them, the asteroids melted, on impact spreading across the ship's hulls like living paint. The smart matter began to seep through shield barriers, finding microscopic gaps in the energy fields. "What's happening?" Lord Vex demanded as warning lights flashed across his bridge. "The smart matter is interfering with our systems," his engineer reported, voice rising in panic. "It's learning our shield frequencies faster than we can change them. It's getting inside our ships." Jack watched from the Resilience as chaos spread through the Imperial fleet. Some ships lost power completely, drifting helplessly. Others fired wildly, hitting their own vessels as their targeting systems failed. "All Earth ships begin Phase 2, Jack ordered. "Target disabled vessels first. Weapons at half power. We want to capture, not destroy." The Earth fleet emerged from hiding places throughout the asteroid belt. They moved with perfect coordination, like they were all controlled by a single mind. In a way, they were. The smart matter on each ship communicated with all the others, sharing information instantly. The Resilience led the attack, firing precise beams at the nearest Imperial cruiser. The cruiser's shields, already weakened by the smart matter, collapsed immediately. A second shot disabled its engines. "Send the boarding parties," Jack ordered. "Let's show the Empire how humans fight." Teams of Earth soldiers wearing armor made of the same smart matter as their ships, transported onto the disabled Imperial vessels. The Imperial crews, expecting to face primitive humans with basic weapons, were shocked to find themselves fighting against soldiers whose armor could adapt to any attack. On the Emperor's fist, Lord Vex watched in growing rage as ship after ship in his once perfect fleet was disabled and captured. "How is this possible?" he shouted. "They were nothing. A backward species on a depleted planet." "My lord," his tactical officer said in a shaking voice, "we've lost 67 ships already. Another 45 are reporting critical systems failure. We should retreat while we still can." Lord Vex's face twisted with fury, but even he could see the battle was lost. "Send word to the Imperial capital. Tell them we need the full armada." "The full armada?" his commander repeated in shock. "But that would leave our core worlds undefended." "We have no choice," Lord Vex hissed. "These humans must be destroyed, whatever the cost." He turned back to the tactical display. "Order all remaining functional ships to cover our retreat. We're leaving." The Emperor's fist turned away from Earth, along with the few Imperial ships still able to move. They accelerated quickly, trying to reach open space where they could jump to hyperspace. Jack watched them go. "Should we pursue?" Emma asked. "No," Jack said. "Let them run. Let them tell the Empire what happened here. Let them spread the word about Earth and its scrap ships." Admiral Harris nodded in agreement. "Besides, we have plenty of work to do here." He gestured to the tactical display, which showed 67 captured Imperial ships. "We have new additions to our fleet." Jack smiled. "Yes. And by the time the Iodine Empire returns, those ships won't look Imperial anymore. They'll be part of the 07JF fleet." Dr. Allen joined them, his face glowing with excitement. "The smart matter is already adapting to Imperial technology. We're learning all their secrets, their weaknesses." He looked at the screen showing the retreating Imperial ships. "When they come back, they'll find we've grown even stronger." Jack's smile faded. "But they will come back, and next time they'll bring everything they have." "We'll be ready," Emma said confidently. Jack nodded, but his eyes remained serious. "The real test is still to come." Lord Vex called for the full Imperial armada. Thousands of ships, their best weapons, their most experienced commanders. "And they'll be fighting for their pride now," Admiral Harris added. "We've humiliated them. They won't stop until they've destroyed us, or we've destroyed them." Jack looked out at the stars, thinking of the battle ahead. "Then we'll just have to make sure it's them, not us." He turned back to his crew. "Prepare all captured ships for integration into our fleet, and send word to Earth. We need more smart matter, as much as they can produce." The battle was won, but the war was just beginning. And somewhere out in the darkness of space, the full might of the Galactic Empire was gathering, preparing to descend upon the small blue planet that had dared to defy them. Earth would need every advantage it could get. Because next time, the Empire wouldn't underestimate the scrap ships of humanity. 1 month after the battle in the asteroid belt, Earth was ready. The captured Imperial ships had been completely transformed by the smart matter, rebuilt from the inside out to serve humanity instead of the Empire. Earth's original 43 vessels had been upgraded again, incorporating the best of Imperial technology with human innovation. Jack stood on the bridge of the Resilience, looking at the tactical display. It showed hundreds of ships positioned throughout the solar system, some visible, others hidden. Each one now bore the designation 07JF on its hull. "Any word from our scouts?" Jack asked Emma, who was monitoring communications. "Yes, sir," she replied. "They've detected a massive hyperspace disturbance heading our way. The Imperial Armada is coming, just as we expected." Admiral Harris, now commander of Earth's entire fleet, nodded grimly. "How many ships?" Emma's face was serious. "Over 3,000, sir." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Even with their captured vessels, Earth had fewer than 500 ships. "We're outnumbered 6-1, someone whispered. Jack turned to face his crew. "Yes, we are, just like we were last time, and the time before that." He walked slowly around the bridge, making eye contact with each person. "The Empire has always had more ships, more resources, more everything. But they've never had what we have." "What's that, sir?" asked a young officer. Jack smiled. Human ingenuity. The ability to take what others throw away and make it stronger. The gift of adaptation. He gestured to the ship around them. They mocked this vessel, called it scrap. Now they fear it. They fear us. Dr. Allen entered the bridge carrying a small silver cube. It's ready, Captain. Jack nodded. Then it's time to show the Empire what 007JF truly means. He pressed a button on his chair, opening a channel to all Earth ships. This is Captain Reynolds. The Imperial Armada will be here within 6 hours. All ships, move to your assigned positions. Prepare to execute Operation Phoenix. The Earth fleet began to move, spreading out across the solar system. Some took positions near planets, using their gravity for cover. Others hid inside the rings of Saturn or among the moons of Jupiter. The Resilience and 50 other ships remained near Earth, appearing to be the planet's main defense. 6 hours later, space at the edge of the solar system seemed to ripple and tear. Thousands of Imperial ships emerged from hyperspace, arranged in a sphere formation that could surround the entire system. At the center was a vessel so large it looked like a small moon, the Imperial Judgment, personal flagship of the Emperor himself. A transmission came through on all channels. The face that appeared on the screen was not Lord Vex, but the Emperor, a tall, imposing figure with pale blue skin and cold, silver eyes. People of Earth, the Emperor said, his voice deep and powerful. Your resistance has come to an end. You have caused the Empire embarrassment for the last time. There will be no mercy, no prisoners, no survivors. Your planet will be reduced to ash, and your species will be erased from the history of the galaxy. The transmission ended. The Imperial Armada began to move toward Earth, weapons charging. On the Resilience, Jack remained calm. They're following the exact approach vector we predicted. All ships, hold position. Wait for my signal. The Imperial Armada moved deeper, into the solar system, their massive numbers blocking out the stars. When they reached the orbit of Mars, Jack gave the order. Now. Dr. Allen activated the silver cube he had brought to the bridge. It began to glow with soft blue light. Throughout the solar system, something strange started to happen. The space between planets seemed to shimmer, like heat rising from hot ground. On the Imperial Judgment, the Emperor frowned. What is that? Some kind of sensor malfunction? His tactical officer looked up in confusion. No, Your Majesty. Something is changing the space around us. Before the Emperor could respond, every ship in Earth's fleet fired at once, not at the Imperial vessels, but at the shimmering space between them. The energy beams disappeared into the shimmer, seeming to be absorbed by nothing. Then, across the solar system, the shimmer took form. The empty space was suddenly filled with thousands of ships, exact copies of the Earth vessels, each one glowing with silver light. Smart matter, the Emperor whispered in horror. They've seeded the entire solar system with it. Jack's voice came through on the Imperial command channel. That's right, Your Majesty. For the past month we've been releasing smart matter into space. Microscopic particles too small for your sensors to detect. And now, we've activated it. The smart matter ships weren't solid. Not yet. They were still forming, pulling themselves together from billions of tiny pieces. But they were real enough to fight. All ships attack Pattern Omega, Jack ordered. Show the Empire what 007JF really means. The Earth fleet and their smart matter copies moved as one, surrounding Imperial vessels from all directions. The Empire's perfect sphere formation, designed to attack a planet at the center, now worked against them. They were facing outward when they needed to face inward. Return fire, the Emperor commanded, but his ships were in chaos, firing in all directions, often hitting their own vessels in the confusion. The Resilience led a group of ships straight toward the Imperial Judgment, dodging enemy fire with impossible speed and precision. When Imperial beams did hit Earth vessels, the smart matter hulls absorbed the energy, using it to power their own weapons. How are they doing this? The Emperor demanded as another group of his ships went dark. No species could advance so quickly. On the Resilience, Jack watched the battle unfolding exactly as they had planned. The problem with the Empire, he said to no one in particular, is that they stopped learning. They thought they knew everything already. Emma looked up from her station. Sir, the smart matter ships are fully formed. Should we proceed to phase 2? Jack nodded. Do it. Throughout the battlefield, the smart matter ships began to change. Instead of remaining as copies of Earth vessels, they flowed toward damaged Imperial ships, surrounding them like silver clouds. They seeped into the Imperial vessels, taking control of their systems from the inside. On the Imperial Judgment, warning lights flashed across every console. We're being infiltrated, the tactical officer shouted. The smart matter is in our systems. Cut power to all sections, the Emperor ordered. Isolate the bridge. But it was too late. The smart matter had reached the ship's core, learning its systems faster than the Imperial crew could lock them down. Across the Armada, the same thing was happening to hundreds of ships at once. Jack opened a channel to the Imperial Judgment. Your Majesty, this can end now. Order your remaining ships to stand down and we will spare them. Continue fighting, and we will take control of every vessel in your Armada, including yours. The Emperor's face appeared on screen, twisted, with rage and disbelief. Who are you to give me orders? I am the ruler of the galaxy. No, Jack said simply. You are the ruler of the Empire, and the Empire just lost its first war. As if to emphasize his point, a group of Imperial ships suddenly changed course, turning to point their weapons at the Imperial Judgment. Their hulls were now streaked with silver. The smart matter had taken control. What is the meaning of this? The Emperor demanded. Your ships are now our ships, Jack explained. Your technology is now our technology, and your Armada is now part of 007JF. What does that mean? The Emperor asked, his voice finally showing fear. What is 007JF? Jack smiled. It means humanity has arrived on the galactic stage, and we're here to stay. 3 days later, what remained of the Imperial Armada retreated from Earth's solar system. More than half of their ships had been captured and transformed. The Emperor himself had escaped only because Jack had allowed it, wanting him to deliver a message to the rest of the galaxy. As the last Imperial ships disappeared into hyperspace, Admiral Harris joined Jack on the bridge of the Resilience. Do you think they'll come back? The Admiral asked. Jack shook his head. Not to fight, maybe someday to talk as equals. He looked out at Earth's fleet, now over 2,000 ships strong. Each one bore the designation 007JF on its hull. No longer a mock-worthy code, but a symbol that struck fear into the hearts of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. We should thank Lord Vex, really, Jack said with a smile. If he hadn't mocked our scrap ship, we might never have discovered what humanity is truly capable of. The Resilience turned toward Earth, leading the fleet home. Behind them, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, welcoming humanity to its rightful place among them.